All right. So as I said, today is a special edition of MVP Office Hours in support of the month of adoption that the Salesforce admins team is running. So we wanted to hold this special edition for y'all as we look to help with your adoption related issues, or frankly, any other issues you're experiencing with Salesforce or solutions you're trying to solve for, because that's what the Office Hours is all about. So my name is Jared Kingston. I am a solution architect and Salesforce MVP with Aperio, and I co-host the Office Hours with Jackie Trevieso and Dale Ziegler. Do you guys want to say hi?
Hello all. Happy Tuesday.
Good afternoon, good morning, and depending on where you are, hope you are warm.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, thanks, guys. So one thing that we like to always call out when we start MVP Office Hours are how you can connect with us. And one of those ways is Twitter at MVP Office Hours. And then you can also find all of our information at mvpofficehours.info. It's a site you can go to see all of our different groups, as well as get links to our groups on the Trailblazer community, to Twitter, as well as the meeting registration. So definitely check that out. As you can also subscribe to our email notifications list there as well. So definitely jump over to that site after the call and check it out. The other thing we like to call out are events that are upcoming. So, there are a lot of events out there. You can check out, some events that are led by Salesforce, as well as we have a whole slew of community-led events. One that's happening this Friday in Lake Tahoe, which I know myself and Jackie will be at, along with a lot of other MVPs. So if you're going to that, we look forward to meeting you there. But there are, as you can see, a lot more coming up within the year that we encourage you to check out if you can travel to it, or if you're local. Definitely encourage you to attend those, as they are very valuable events. So with that being said, let's lay some quick ground rules here. I can advance the slide. All right, so just a quick overview of what MVP Office Hours is if this is your first time. So we hold this usually first and third Friday of each month. Again, this one is more of a special one. And so we hold it first and third Friday. Our next one will be on February 2nd. And the registration link is, as you can see right there on the screen, it will never change. So you can bookmark that and take it to the bank, as they say, as that will always be the same. We hold this as an open Q&A discussion. So really any question you have on Salesforce, no questions too small or too big. We want to try to help you out as much as we can. So we have other MVPs on the call, they're experts. But if you have any experience, you don't have to be an MVP to help answer a question. If you think your experience could help out with the question. So we post the recording out to the community as well as Twitter. You can actually go to YouTube and search for MVP Office Hours, and we post all the recordings there, so you can subscribe and get notified automatically. It is live. We just ask that you mute your lines so we can easily hear everything. And then when you want to ask questions, really the best way is to raise your hand, or if there's a dead spot and we're asking for people to speak up, then you can just speak up, and then just announce yourself so that everybody knows who they're speaking to. And we'll record resources that we hear of on the call as we go, and then we'll post those out to the Trailblazer community for you guys to reference after the call. So with that being said, let's get this call underway. I'm just going to exit out of presentation mode here so we can start recording some things. So who wants to kick us off with the first question? Brian Kwong, quick to the trigger, raise his hand. Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, this is Brian Kwong, MVP, weird guy in the wizard hat. So January's adoption month proclaimed by Salesforce. And the one thing that I've been having discussion with is, what do you guys consider adoption? Because I think one person says, hey, we have good adoption, means something different for someone else. So I actually want to just ask everyone in the room, what do they think adoption means to them?
Well, this is Dale. Hi, Brian. I personally treat adoption at an incremental level. If somebody didn't used to do something in Salesforce and now they do, you've started adoption, and then letting it snowball from there. It doesn't have to be a big, momentous, nobody was doing anything in Salesforce and now everybody's doing everything in Salesforce. It's a series of many quick wins to move the needle ever so slightly, and in the end, you see those positive results.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Who else? It's a good question.
Brian, this is Jackie. I think another level of adoption is when the executive team is actually driving their meetings based on reports and dashboards and using that data live. So I think that, like Dale said, I think there's different levels of adoption.
Yeah, Brian, I think for me, this is Jared. So I think one of the ways I look at it, right, is from what adoption is to me is trying to get users to the point, right, of where they feel they can't perform their job effectively without the tool. And I think if you've gotten to that point, then you've got a high level of adoption, and I think that's one of the things I look at. Haley, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have anything to add there? Did you have a question or?
Yeah, no, I was just, with regards to adoption, we're still in our implementation, and I have found one thing that has worked really well for me is I always frame it with the users as what's in it for them. So I do my research and I try to figure out what is their biggest pain point, and then I give them a tool in Salesforce to try to make that a little bit easier. And I found once you get them past that one thing that is painful, they kind of then go over a tipping point and see all the ways it can help. But I try to personalize that approach to every single user that I know is having an adoption challenge.
That's great. Anybody else? What about, I see Steve Mullis on the call, so I'm gonna call him out. Steve, what do you think on this?
Man, I think, from my perspective, when I look at, ways to drive adoption is I try to remove, I identify whatever pain points there are and work out ways to alleviate them. I remember when I first started back in my day, we didn't have, everything was a required field. Using things like, working with the user to figure out how things flow, and and making things as intuitive as possible, rather than hammering them over the head with a bunch of required fields and a bunch of validation rules when they create a record, figuring out what information they're going to have that what information they will and won't have when, and structuring like, you know, the validation rules, page layouts, processes, whatever it is, you know, with that like flow, if that makes sense.
No, that's great. Awesome. I give you some good stuff, Brian.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason I bring it up, and I mentioned this in the chat, is because I've had a lot of customers, and when I was an admin, I've had managers too say, "Hey, we need to have quote good adoption unquote." But if you're gonna have that as a goal, you need to have a way to define that, and you need to have a way to measure it. And I think that's
Yeah,
something that gets missed.
Yeah, this Steve again. Like, so perfect example of that. Like, if you like, for example, we have a pretty long sales process. Our deals are big and they take many weeks and months to develop. If you create your opportunity page layout or structure your opportunity validation rules so that a user, just to create a new opportunity, is required to put in dot every I, cross every T, in order to just get that record created and saved, they're gonna want, your adoption is gonna be great. You're gonna have like 100% of your required fields are gonna be filled, but are they gonna be really filled with meaningful and impactful information, or are they just gonna be filling in the blanks for the sake of not having a blank? Or when you meet with them and you realize, like, all right, how the deals evolve, what information is available when, and what information isn't, you can structure things so that you're actually, their life is easier, and you're getting real usable data. Whether it's something like what the margin on a deal is going to be. If that's not going to be known in the proposal and process stage, then don't make that field required at that point. Make it required at proposal submitted or a stage beyond that.
Yeah, it's good. Awesome. Thanks, all. That's good stuff. Moving on here, Marty, you had your hand raised for a question. You want to go ahead and state your question?
Hi, sure. This is a question switching topics that I had put in the community having to do with Lightning email templates, and I have corroboration that I'm correct, and I just want to be sure there's nothing I'm missing. In Lightning, I'm in a case, I'm creating a new email template. It seems as though it does not allow me to put it in a folder or set it as active or not as I can in Classic. Are there any workarounds? I'm working with someone that has zillions of templates, and for a agent to have to go and they don't remember the name of it, look through them all, seems very not user friendly. Is there something I'm missing? And I'm in a Spring sandbox, Spring 18.
Marty, this is Jackie. I went through all of the steps when I saw your post, and I could not find any kind of a workaround, which validated what you had gone through. So if there is anybody else who is creating email templates, it would be great. The documentation that I found says these things can be done, but they don't give you the steps on how to do them. So I don't know if it's the documentation wasn't completed or what, but it looks like Salesforce still has some building to do around templates based on what I found also.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, anybody with experience on Lightning templates? All right. All right, so moving on here. Who else has a question? I thought somebody had their, Scott, you had your hand raised. You still have a question? Go for it, Sue.
Hi, thanks. This is Sue, and my question gets back a little bit to adoption. And the question I have, I think, for our organization, we're actually 7 years into it, so we're not necessarily in the adoption phase, but we're almost in the relaunch phase. We are still using Classic, although we're right now in the process of reviewing Lightning and starting a build out for the conversion to Lightning. So we're going to have to go over, basically get back into adoption at that point and do a relaunch. But my question is, are there like industry standards? So we talk about metrics, and the organization that I work for, we are somewhat metric organized. And metric centric. We like to see how many users are logging in and how often are they logging in and what's the past due opportunities. But are there industry standards for, let's say, login rates? Is a 90% login rate in the last 30 days something that we should expect? So are there standards out there that we can use as guidelines, just to understand, the health of our organization and the health of our adoption?
Anybody have anything they want to throw out there if you're admin, consultant alike that you've used in the past?
This is Jackie. I don't know of any standards, but if I were asked that question, I probably would go back and look at for example, the sales process. What are you requiring them to do on a daily basis? And what would that look like translated to tasks and activities or updates in Salesforce, and design your metrics based on your business process? So that if they have to make X number of calls a day,
Mm-hmm.
can you verify that they're logging in daily? Because obviously if they're making those calls, they should be logging them every day. I would probably look at just step by step, what is the sales process and what are those links to Salesforce, and maybe back into your company metrics and what you would see as success. It doesn't necessarily answer your question, but if I were asked to come up with the metrics, I would probably look at it that way.
Yeah, no, and that definitely helps. I mean, that was kind of the step that's what we've been basing it off of, but we just want to make sure that, that what we're doing is really giving us, the metrics. I think was it Steve? You brought up a really good point about the user interface and kind of the steps, and which is that's a really good thinking point. Is, are we getting adoption based on the process, or is it is it the adoption or the data quality? Like, that's kind of where we're how do we exchange the two? So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some things out there, depending, but again, getting back to what Jackie said, it's going to vary between, like, the nature of your business. Like if you're a call center, or if you guys that, like, have a boiler room where people are just billing for dollars, then you're going to be measuring things on, like, activities logged. And you could start with doing some data collection, like, just running a very broad report, like, a simple activity report or a simple opportunity report, and figure out, like, what your average is, and then try and identify, like, the people who are closing cases or closing opportunities, whatever you are doing, and figure out, like, okay, the people who are the closers, their average number is X, but our overall average is Y, and that's too big of a gap. And how do we get those Ys up to that X? But it really depends on the industry that you're in, and are you very is your business very transactional, or is it big deals and projects that take many weeks and months to nurture, and then you finally do land a mega contract that carries your company through the next year and stuff like that. I mean, because they're both totally valid, but if you do have those long nurturing projects and you're trying to measure them using a very transactional model, it's going to look like your data is not going to fit in that box.
Yeah, this is Jared. I would agree with everything they said, right? I mean, I think there's certainly, and I pasted some links in here that you can look at on, like actions for driving user adoption, and then some things that Salesforce recommends on metrics, beyond just your kind of standard, how are they logging in, who's not logging in, right? Because those only tell you so much. But the way I've, always seen it just in consulting in the past couple of years with a lot of different clients is, you got to look at what does adoption look like to you as a company, right? What actions are the user taking that would show adoption, such as creating activities or, opportunities being created in the health of that data, right? Like, is it good data, or are they just, putting in minimal information and, trying to get by as minimally as possible, right? So being able to track the quality of the data that they're putting in. So, but yeah, you've got to look at those metrics based on what you would deem as, success as far as how they're using the system.
Sue, this is Jackie. You had also mentioned that your organization is getting ready to migrate to Lightning, and you had concerns about having to do some retraining. As soon as I find this, I'm going to share a link to a presentation done by Rachel Rogers of BMC Software. Mm-hmm. And I believe she delivered this at Dreamforce 17. And she talks about how she set up her organization to make that migration and how they did absolutely no training. And it was a very interesting approach. And it seemed to be extremely painless for her users. So as soon as I can find that, I'm going to share it with this group. And if I don't find it before the hour is up, I'll post it to community. But I think that you would probably benefit from that. It seems to me that it's a presentation that kind of takes away the willies of trying to do this, huge migration. And maybe it doesn't have to be as scary as it seems to be.
Yeah, that would be great if you could share that, because right now that's what we're in the process of doing. And the other dynamic that we have in play is that we're a global company. So we've got regions that are regions are a little bit of a different demographic. So the way that they utilize Salesforce, even though it's a global company and we have global metrics, is slightly different. So we're trying to tie in all three, or all 4 different regions, in creating documents and training guides and videos and doing all of that with the new user interface.
Okay, as soon as I can find the link, I'll share it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sure.
And Dale, I saw you added, something to the chat, which is good. So thanks for adding that. All right, who else has a question? Justin, go ahead.
Hi, this is Dustin from Omaha, Nebraska. Thanks for having me on, guys. And I'm just curious about what other companies are feeling, if this is a pain point for them. Obviously, Salesforce is obviously cloud-based, and when Salesforce for Outlook, your red Skittle program, needs to be moved over to Lightning for Outlook to sync in emails, you actually have to let your Exchange servers, there's multiple ways I think you can configure it, but essentially it's let your Exchange servers for Microsoft Outlook hit the Microsoft Office store, and then it's just a straight web app, and it is not basically just a single MSI installer for you to push a plugin to all of your users. So basically, just kind of a philosophy question there. Are people having the pain points of seeing on-premise Microsoft Exchange uses? IT department's not really wanting to go to the cloud with this Lightning for Outlook merge. So I don't know if that's too involved, but I'll let you guys take it.
No, great question. Anybody have experience? I haven't delved into the Lightning for Outlook on the just yet. Any admins or consultants out there that have done any of this?
So the question is, are they getting IT pushback for doing things like Lightning for Outlook?
Yeah, so further context would simply be that we need to start using LFO instead of the traditional SFO plugin in order to use our get our attachments into records as files instead of the whole notes and attachments divorce that's happening. So Salesforce for Outlook, the red Skittle program, can only push them in as attachments. It's a huge deal to my users and to me that if this thing doesn't work, Lightning is on hold until that happens. So yes, one, is anybody else feeling the pain? And two, are there other workarounds that we know of?
I'm not aware of any workarounds yet at this time.
Dustin, it's Bruno talking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi there. I'm a consultant as well. I've got one of my clients on Lightning, and I've done that route. I've gone down the path of Lightning for Outlook, and I'm finding it's not that great in terms of it's a bit slow. I'm finding that it's quite slow on the user side to be able to use it. And although they can push messages in, they're not able to put like tasks per se. It only does event merging. That's my experience so far. So I was hoping for an update to come from Salesforce, but that's all I can say about it, that I have seen it, and I'm not super impressed just yet. Anybody else out there have experience with it?
And Dustin, have you posted this by chance out to the Answers community?
Sure. Yeah, I have it on. There's a Lightning for Outlook or Gmail Sync type of a group out there. It's kind of the catch-all that has all the new tools up there.
Okay.
Doug Ayers is awesome for pushing out an app, but kind of giving really good context on his blog, I'd say. But I don't know if it's just a security decision internally, I think. They haven't really looked at that app specifically for his, but if that is a declarative way that I can pump it into our environment for us to have an app run and push these triggers from attachments into files, I'm curious if anybody's used that, if that's really even a functionality that works. So I think that if we do our due diligence on that app, or if somebody else says it's great, then that could be one way around it. But still kind of my unknown area that I'm working through.
Okay. post this app out here. All right, who else has a question? Nobody has a question right now. I'll pose a question to the group. What are some adoption issues that maybe you guys are running into? If you're on Lightning Experience or making the transition to Lightning Experience, what are some adoption issues that maybe you're running into thus far? Whether you're an admin or a consultant that you're seeing. Yeah, go for it, Brad.
From my experience, it's been not enough training. There are plenty of users that kind of, you do one little training session and they just pick it up and get it. There are others where you pretty much need to go back repeatedly with them just because the UI has changed so much. For example, the common thing people have told me is they keep forgetting where the related lists are, so they keep scrolling instead of clicking on the related tab. And so for certain items like that, we've made the suggestion of, instead of having it as a separate tab, actually moving it and exposing it on the sidebar. But still, it's like something people still have to get used to. So having more kind of like cheat sheets for people to refer back to has been helpful, but I don't think you can give enough training for folks who are in the middle of transitioning.
I could share an idea.
Yeah, go for it.
So I didn't come up with this. One of my campus customers did this, and I didn't even know you could. So I like to share it out with folks. Their transition to Lightning wasn't a person by person or org-wide. It was application by application. So they took a really popular console that some of their users were using and created a Lightning replacement for it. But they didn't cut people over hard. They basically used the same strategy that Salesforce is using with Lightning and saying, hey, you can go back. So they created the new one. They're doing all of their new developments in the Lightning console, but they still allow their users to go back and use the console they're familiar with until all the bugs are out. So that's a really interesting way of soft launching Lightning that I really hadn't heard of anyone else doing. I mean, maybe it's super common, but I hadn't seen it. So I was impressed, and I thought I would share that this thing can be rolled out application by application.
That's great. Thanks, Corey. Who else? Go for it, Sarah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I don't know if is my mic working?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I would totally agree with what Brian was saying, that right now I'm in the middle of not only, we're rolling out a new implementation of Salesforce that are a nonprofit, so it's Lightning native. They've never seen Classic, but they're still having a hard time finding things. So making really good maps of the page layouts and really having to go and train people multiple times about, you click here to get to this kind of data, and especially switching over from a totally different kind of database. That's been one of the pain points, is people are like, don't know where to click. So I totally hear what you're saying, Brian, and absolutely run into the same thing.
That's great. Thank you. Haley, you had a hand raised.
Yeah, one thing I use is a product called Loom, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. I can drop a link in the chat, but it basically lets you make videos of your screen. I mean, there's many other apps out there that do it, but I created a little custom object called a how-to script, and I give them like text steps, and then they get a little embedded Loom video, and then I give them a little place, and I turned on activities for it so they can say, hey, I completed this training, and put little notes and comments on it. And I found it's really helpful because I can prescribe it to certain user groups and we can track their training. And it's also just something that's like always on demand, always there, whether they're a text learner or a visual learner. And we're a nonprofit too, so I found that, people are really busy and it's hard, that winds up being a pretty good tool. And the users often they find the videos very helpful.
Can you repeat the name of that tool?
Yeah, or paste the link in the.
Yeah, I'll paste a link in the chat window, but it's called Loom. And give me just a moment and watch for the chat link.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
That's awesome.
They have a Chrome plugin too that makes it pretty easy, and it allows you to add. There's the interface is really, really nice. It's very elegant. It has like a little bubble that'll show your video, and people seem to respond well when they can see my face, but it doesn't really block what's happening on the screen, and just in general makes training a lot easier. And it will also give you a handy report as far as how many people are using your vids and what they're watching, and you can kind of get a sense of what's hot and what people are really finding useful.
Have you ever taken any of your video snippets and dropped it into a PowerPoint presentation?
I've never done it in PowerPoints, but I do drop them into my little custom how-to object. But I think you can. I mean, they're hosted online, but they do plug in quite nicely with a little HTML tweaking into a Salesforce custom object, and they can just watch the video right there and look at the steps. So.
Cool. All right, great, thanks.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't heard of this product. It's a cool product. All right, who else? Anybody else have any thoughts there as far as, Lightning adoption? It could be Salesforce adoption in general. I'll mention a similar tool while we're kind of on a similar topic. The WalkMe app is one that we've implemented here for one of our external tools, and it's a really great tool as far as, I think it's somewhat similar in the concept, but it's on the platform, so you can, run through your user path, click path, and it does just what it says. It walks the user through each step, tells them where to click, what fields to fill in, all the different steps, and can track, if they've completed it or not. And then there's a little help widget on each page so that you want it to have it on, and then they can, pull up, walkthroughs essentially. So that's a good tool. I'll paste that one in there. Brian, did you?
Yeah.
You have?
I just want to piggyback on what you said. If you're looking at tools similar to WalkMe, there's another one out there called Merlin Guides that works very similarly. Although I will say that my only reason not to say you should go check them out is because the owner of this also comes to Dreamforce wearing a wizard hat, and I feel a little affronted by that. But beyond that, I checked them out at Dreamforce, and it's
Brian,
a pretty cool looking tool.
There's nothing wrong with a little healthy competition in the wizard space.
It's personal branding, man. It's against the brand.
Oh, Brian, and I thought that was your product.
See, there you go.
See? I'm just kidding.
Get the patent lawyers on it now.
Yeah, I'd add that. WalkMe is very cool and more advanced. There's another cool tool called Screen Steps, which is less advanced, but also cheaper and easier to implement. It's more like inline contextual help it's not help for Salesforce specifically. It's about how your customers are to use Salesforce on the screens where they're using Salesforce. So it's kind of a good tool, something you can check out. I've had good luck with it.
What'd you call that tool?
Screen Steps.
Screen Steps. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah, I think we're seeing a nice recurring theme here, right? I know when I was an admin, probably the most powerful thing was the different videos that I create, and knowing too, right, that everybody has a different learning method, right? Some people, as much as I feel like as good as a video you can create, right? Some people it's not their style, right? To sit there and watch a video and learn it that way, right? They really need hands-on. So I think making sure you're offering all the different avenues of training to help with adoption, whether it's, videos as well as, quick help guides, right? I know some people like to, as much as you don't necessarily need to print things these days, some people like to print things off, right? And be able to have it with them as kind of a quick guide on how to do something. So, having those, as well as I used to do, it's kind of a related topic, but what I used to do is hold a, similar to this, but internally, like a office hours of sorts. And I was in an office environment, so every other Thursday morning, I would my boss allowed me to get expense pastries and donuts and coffee, and I would 8:30 a.m. every other Thursday morning, I would have an office hours where I'd go over a couple things and then just open it up for questions. So that was a good way for those who really wanted that specific time to walk through things. Seemed to really help put them at ease, as opposed to just getting pinged by them every waking moment. All right, Haley, you had a question around my trailhead. I think is basically the end of your question, when that will be available or generally available.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they got me all excited, but I haven't seen any kind of a date or a sense of when that might be available.
That is.
I haven't seen the official release date.
Yeah, I want to say at Dreamforce they were talking like late 2018 or 2019. It got us all excited, and then
that's par for Dreamforce.
Yes.
I mean, typically my rule of thumb is if Salesforce announces something brand new at Dreamforce, don't assume it's coming until the end of that year, or the end of the following year technically, or even the year after that. Especially Salesforce has a tendency to release their new products where the cost is just really high, and it takes about a year or two for the cost to come down to be more consumable.
Also, they like to release things at Dreamforce. So,
Yeah,
Well,
Salesforce One was a same day thing.
yep. So that might be a good target. I have a thing to share about adoption. Since I wasn't on the call earlier, I could be repeating somebody, but I'll just risk it anyway, since people are so quiet. Something that has really worked for me is trying to build, I actually called them ambassadors into the departments that could sort of work on the adoption problem with their sort of direct users. So I guess if you consider sort of distributed admins out into the departments and business units, that can help a whole lot. And that way it's not always, if you're kind of the central administrator, it's not always you having to be the broker in between. And often they're a lot more knowledgeable about the business processes of their sort of local division. So if you have the ability to foster distributed admins that can act as your kind of local on the ground champions, and give them, prestigious titles like ambassador and make them feel important, that can really work. So it's just a suggestion.
I'll plus one on that one. When I was an admin before moving into consulting, I had a steering committee in my company. We met every month, had at least one or two representatives from every business unit, and we consumed actually the work list, whether you called it an issues log or you had formal like backlog items or user stories, whatever you had. But the purpose of that meeting was they prioritized it. So yeah, it empowers them to be part of the process. It also takes the burden off the admin of being the bad guy and making the decision. Because if everybody's at the table and they all agree that it's 1, then 2, then 4, then 3, that's what you all decided on. That's what we're going to do. But it gets everybody involved in the process. It keeps everybody up to speed of what's going on and when and how and why or why not. So that's an absolute plus one.
Yeah, it's really good from a governance and change management standpoint when you're a solo admin. I did the same thing when I first became owner of the platform, 8 years ago. And what I ended up doing is I made little badges, and then I walked around the office putting the Salesforce Advocate badge on people's cubicles and office watch and make them really special. Should have thought of the capes and hat thing, but I didn't.
My ambassadors had sashes. Oh, and hats. They had sashes and hats.
That's awesome.
I have one thing to offer for those that are getting ready to migrate, or think that they're going to migrate at some point. Turn it on for yourself and start navigating as an admin so that you can start becoming familiar with where things have moved and how they work a little bit differently, and then also make note of things that stumped you on where to find them, because those are the same things that are going to stump your end users. Those are my recommendations.
That's great. All right, we have about 7 minutes left. Anybody else have anything they want to throw out there? Doesn't necessarily have to be adoption related. Could be general Salesforce question.
I got one.
Go for it.
Excellent. Has anybody tried Big Objects?
They are so intriguing, but no, not yet.
Oh, okay. I had to try. I saw the list of people on here and I'm thinking, someone must have tried it. But hey, it's It's just going to incent me to try it and report back. That's the thing.
Yeah, I haven't dug into it either.
I nominate you then.
Corey, I invite you to come back every call and ask that question for sure. Someone will eventually pipe up and say, yes, they have.
I know. I asked them the last call too. If people if nobody's, chiming in, I'm just going to have to go off and do the research myself. And that's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
Nope, keep asking until you get your answer.
Could be my Dreamforce presentation.
Well,
There you go.
Dreamforce presentation on, has anyone used big objects yet?
Yeah, that might be embarrassing, but maybe if I was showing somebody something about how we could reduce our storage costs, which everyone wants to do, that would be amazing. Or better than that, fewer systems, because I think a lot of us in the ecosystem spend a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money avoiding paying Salesforce for storage. So it could be a good story.
All right. Anybody else?
Speaking of storage, I've got a question.
Go for it.
Years and years ago, I think it was probably going back 5-6 years at least, there was a tool called Case Detachifier that could take your attachments from cases and move it offline and save up a bunch of storage in Salesforce. Has anybody heard of anything that can even approach what that tool used to do anymore? Nada. Drawing blanks, huh? Okay.
I think that would be a great product recommendation for Elements.cloud. Because if anybody could do it, it might be them.
Really? What's the name of them again?
Elements.cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Ask to speak with Ian Gotts and tell him you have a fantastic idea that you want revived.
Fantastic.
He is the man in charge.
Jackie sent you.
Yeah, he is the man in charge, and he is incredibly responsive.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that.
You got it.
And it's Ian spelled I-A-N.
Oh, good call, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, they've already got all of the API and whatever built to go in and access all of the objects and all the related records and all of that. And so that seems like that would be something they would be able to, I'm not going to say easy, but possibly do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Well, we have about 3 minutes left, so we'll go ahead and wrap up here. I appreciate everybody joining, the great conversation, a lot of great tips. Again, we will compile this information. We'll post it out to the Trailblazer community. Look for the recording as well. Again, encourage you, if you're a YouTuber, go subscribe to our channel to get those automatically sent to you for your weekend entertainment. And
Jared?
And yeah, we think, yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to say, if anybody is going to Tahoe Dreamin', please seek us out because we will have stickers. We're
That's
all
true.
adults and we need stickers.
Yeah, I've got them right here. So they are ready. So hopefully we'll see some of y'all out there. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. And, we'll see you guys on February 2nd. Have a good rest of your week.
Cheers.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
all.